Hola, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 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 Sí. Ah, ok.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tax Inspectors Without Borders, a decade of impact and the road ahead. My name is Ben Dickinson. I'm Deputy Director of the OECD Tax Centre. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here this morning. Thank you very much for a prompt start and getting through security on time. Without further ado, I'm going to ask Asmund Aukrust, Minister of International Development from Norway, to make opening remarks, and then Mary Beth Goodman, Deputy Secretary General of the OECD, and Marcus Netto, Assistant Administrator of OECD, of UNDP.
We'll take you.
We'll take you.
Yes, such a good partner.
Yes.
We'll then make his remarks. So, Minister, the floor is yours.
Perfect, and thank you, and thank to all of you that have shown up at this important side event. And I'm very honored to be a part of this opening session that's marking the 10-year anniversary of Tax Inspector Without Borders. This was launched on the previous FFD conference in Addis Ababa 10 years ago. And Tax Inspectors Without Borders has become the cornerstone of international effort to strengthen tax systems and mobilize domestic resource for sustainable development. It stands as a flagship showcasing the potential of strong cooperation between OECD and the UN. Domestic resource mobilization has for a long time been the most important answer in the enormous financial gap to reach the sustainable goals. But now, with development assistance declining, it is more important than ever before. By providing targeted assistance to tax administration based on demand and peer-to-peer cooperation between government experts, Tax Inspectors Without Borders has helped mobilize more than $2 billion in additional tax revenue in developing countries. So I mean, that is an enormous number, $2 million, and they can translate into very concrete results: schools, stronger health systems, and improved infrastructure. From the Norwegian government, we are very proud to be the only government supporting both the UNDP and OECD side in this partnership. But even though we are proud today to be the only country, this is a club that we are really happy to see others to join. But perhaps the most important way countries can contribute to the success of this program and others like this is by making experts from their own tax administration available to spend time and expertise to support international development. Often this is a research scarcer than money. I'm happy to see that Tax Inspector Without Borders is launching a number of new programs in African countries now. The potential for mobilizing resources is significant, and where stronger tax systems can play a key role in supporting development and reducing inequalities. We are also very happy to note the strong collaboration between the African Tax Administration Forum. Building partnerships and strengthening regional organization is key to ensuring that efforts towards long-term increases in domestic resource mobilization are sustainable and can be scaled up regionally. Norway's support to Tax Inspectors Without Borders is a part of our broader commitment to support domestic resource mobilization. As a founding member of the Addis Tax Initiative, we have fulfilled our commitment from 2015 to more than double our contributions to tax-related development assistance. And as a concrete follow-up from Sevilla, Norway pledged to further scale up this support. A key part of the legacy of Sevilla should be strengthened commitment to supporting developing countries in their ability to generate and manage domestic resources that are essential for delivering public services, reducing inequalities, and building trust between government and its citizens. As we move forward from Seville, Tax Inspectors Without Borders will remain an effective tool to help achieve this vision and ensure that our aspiration translate into lasting change. So with those words, I look forward to listening to my friends and colleagues from UNDP and OECD and also to the rest of the seminar. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I am really excited to be here. I am a huge fan of Tax Inspectors Without Borders. Celebrating 10 years, this is what it takes: collaboration, determination, and technical assistance to help countries improve at such a critical time. And now we're going to do even more. Truly happy to have my colleague, UNDP Assistant Secretary General Marcus Nieto, joining us here. This has been a wonderful collaboration between UNDP and OECD. Very warm welcome to all of you ministers and other officials who are joining us here. A decade ago, it's hard to believe Addis Ababa was a decade ago, but a decade ago, the OECD and the UNDP launched Tax Inspectors Without Borders. Someday I am going to get a t-shirt with that. We had a very clear and urgent purpose in working together to strengthen the capacity of developing countries and emerging markets to enforce their tax laws and to mobilize domestic resources. At a time of widening fiscal gaps and growing pressure on public budgets, initiatives like TWIB are not just useful, they are indispensable. TIWB works because it brings together OECD's technical tax expertise and UNDP's operational reach and development mandate. It is a marriage made in heaven, this one. It is a true example of system-wide collaboration and of investing in global solidarity in ways that deliver measurable and lasting results. This is exactly the kind of practical capacity-building partnership that FFD4 outcome document called for, right? This is what we're looking for. One that supports domestic resource mobilization, combats illicit financial flows, and reinforces inclusive international tax cooperation. Today, we are marking a decade of meaningful results. As detailed in our 10-year retrospective report we are proud to launch today, TIWB has contributed to $6.3 billion in tax assessments and enabled the collection of over $2.4 billion in additional revenue across 70 developing countries. Crucially, these revenues help fund national priorities and support essential services in health and education, bringing countries closer to achieving the SDGs. Much of this impact has taken place in Africa, in close collaboration with our partner, the African Tax Administrative Forum, and we're very pleased that they're here as well. Thanks to this partnership, African tax administrations have collected more than $1.91 billion in revenue. Additionally, TWIB programs worldwide have helped disallow losses amounting to $2.49 billion, enabling authorities to effectively tax multinational enterprises previously deemed non-profitable. The leadership of the African Tax Administrative Forum and the mobilization of nearly $2 billion in Africa alone demonstrates the power of South-South collaboration and cooperation, as well as the regional expertise. The OECD has been proud to support this. What makes TIWB work? We believe there are 3 core principles that have proven essential. First, TIWB is demand-driven. Each program is tailored to the specific context and priorities of the host administration. This approach strengthens country ownership, ensures relevance, and boosts effectiveness. Second, TIWB has adapted as the international tax landscape has evolved. What began as a focus on transfer pricing and base erosion has expanded. Today, TIWB also supports countries on sector-specific challenges, including extractives, telecommunications, and hospitality, as well as on cutting-edge issues like country-by-country reporting, the global minimum tax, and using automatically exchanged financial account information. TIWB has also responded to the urgent need to combat illicit financial flows. through support of criminal tax investigations. It helps countries detect, investigate, and prosecute complex cross-border tax crimes, reinforcing the whole of government responses to illicit activity. Lastly, TIWB is a powerful example of practical partnership in action. It is not only an OECD UNDP initiative, it is also backed by the African Tax Administration Forum, by the International Institute for Sustainable Development through an intergovernmental forum on mining, by donor countries, many of you are here today, and by 27 partner administrations that deploy skilled experts. Each of these partners has been essential to the results that we are celebrating today. As we gather here under the baking warmth in Sevilla, let us feel refreshed by the shared decade of progress and reaffirm our commitment going forward. Today not only marks the launch of our retrospective, but we are unveiling a TIWB 2.0, a renewed vision that will be further elaborated on by my colleague here, Assistant Secretary General Nieto. Through TIWB 2.0, we look forward to deepening the collaboration and enhancing impact for the years to come. TIWB is a practical expression of the principle that international tax cooperation must work for all and be shaped by all. So please join us in ensuring that TIWB 2.0 delivers not only stronger tax systems, but stronger futures for everyone. Thank you very much.
Ministers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, but my dear Mary, my dear friend Ben, right? In today's world, to actually celebrate 10 years of anything is kind of a miracle, right? It's kind of a miracle. And unfortunately, in this last decade, the need for tax inspectors without border has not declined. If anything, it's needed more today than it was 10 years ago. If you look at 56 countries today, paying $1.4 trillion into debt, and the title of fixed spaces and everything else. So anything we can do to create that fiscal space, that capacity building in tax administration must be done. So that is what TIWB 2.0 will be about in an absolutely perfect moment, because taxation is not only a revenue tool, it actually is an anchor for good governance. It rebuilds public trust, it renews social contract. When grounded in equity and trust, it empowers countries to take charge of their development agenda, reduce dependence, and build resilience, inclusive economies. TIWB shows what practical results-driven country-led cooperation can achieve. It is a powerful example. By embedding expert support directly within tax administrations, TIWB has delivered real-time capacity building, institutional strengthening, and measurable results. The impact is very real. Over the past decade, TIWB has helped developing countries collect over $2.4 billion in additional tax. Beyond this headline number, its true value lies in stronger local confidence, healthier taxpayer relations, and lasting capabilities. While we look at where TIWB came from, we cannot overlook the political and global agenda that enabled its launch. The Addis Ababa Action Agenda, agreed a decade ago, recognized the urgent need to scale up domestic resource mobilization as the primary means of finance the SDGs. It was in this spirit that TIWB was born. Now, a decade later, the Compromiso de Sevilla doubles down on domestic resource mobilization as the central, but not just domestic resource mobilization, but as a country-led domestic resource mobilization. What the Compromiso de Sevilla makes very clear, is that the concept that started in Addis, the countries should be in charge of their own finance priorities, is now consolidated. And TIWB is a mechanism to achieve that country leadership in a partnership with the rest of the world and with outside stakeholders as well. In the implementation of the Seville Platform of Action, TIWB will be an essential element. TIWB 2.0 sets a clear strategic direction for the future. It reflects our shared ambition to scale up engagement, tailor support more closely to countries' evolving needs, and generate a stronger political momentum for tax cooperation at both national and global levels. TIWB 2.0 will strengthen peer learning and expand into frontier areas such as the digital trade, the implementation of global minimum tax rules, and the sector-specific audits. Most importantly, it will elevate South-South and triangular cooperation, making sure that expertise flows from and to the global South. With the next phase, we will also leverage strengthened partnership and political momentum. It is impossible to speak about TIWB without acknowledging the strong commitment of our key partners. Let me take this opportunity to recognize the unwavering support of Finland and Norway, and to congratulate the Minister once again for having just announced that they are going to double down again on their support to domestic resource mobilization. Their support enable UNDP and OECD to scale this proven model further, reaching more countries and sustaining progress over time. Equally significant is the strengthening partnerships between UNDP and OECD. This has not always been easy, right? But it is in a moment of geopolitical tensions, in a moment that, there were a few moments there with the tax convention in the UN, but never between us. The UNDP OECD tax team have stuck together for 10 years, have dealt with issues. Staff has changed on both sides, but the ethos of this partnership has kept us together for 10 years and will keep us together for the next 10 years. As long as we can bring some dough, some cash back to governments, right, and provide some capacity building, we'll stick to each other, and not because it's not a stale marriage. It's actually quite a good marriage. We actually just signed an MOU to renew that commitment and enhance the effectiveness of our collaboration. Multilateral action and shared expertise will remain at the core of tax capacity building for years to come. It is also important to recognize, as Mary did it, the invaluable contribution of regional champions like the African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF. Partnership powers this success. TIWB cannot be seen in isolation of broader public finance for the SDGs. This work completes the picture. By integrating equity-focused fiscal policies, we help governments align budgets with national priorities, and through TIWB embed tax reforms inside wider public finance transformations. Through our country offices and regional presence, we ensure that TIWB engagements reinforce efforts to make tax system more inclusive, accountable, and development-oriented over time. Looking ahead, the initiative matters more than ever. SDG finance gaps widen, tax challenges grow more complex. Stronger cooperation, not fragmentation, is our way forward. So today I urge all of us, governments, donors, and partners to recommit, reinvest, re-innovate, and act for a more inclusive, transparent, and equitable global tax system. One that delivers for people and planet alike. Let us keep investing in the proven models. Let us keep adapting into the new realities, and let us keep pushing for a better future. Everybody this week keeps saying, there's too many new things being launched. We don't know, we lose track, right? You don't need to launch anything new. There's 10 years of history, there's 10 years of proven record. Keep on doing the bet that we've done on us, and we will help governments have the money they deserve. Thank you very much. From Addis to Seville and the future.
Thank you very much, Marcus, Marybeth, and the Minister. There'll now be a short interlude while we change the scenery here, and I'm going to hand over to Tom Below from UNDP, who's going to chair the first panel, Looking Back.
Thank you so much. What a fantastic opening panel. Be difficult to follow that. A celebration of success, but also a doubling down for the future. So luckily for me, we have an incredible panel lined up who I'm going to invite to the platform now to talk us through from AAA, from the Addis Ababa Action Agenda to FFD4, a decade of impact in developing countries. So I'm pleased to invite His Excellency Honorable Lekki Dorji. Hello, Minister of Finance of Bhutan. Fantastic to have you, sir. Also His Excellency Mr. Pasi Helman, Under Secretary of State of International Development, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Finland. Thank you so much, sir. His Excellency Dr. Ali Nasir Mohammed, Permanent Representative of Maldives to the United Nations. Great to have you here on the panel. And finally, Ms. Katie Fisher, Deputy Director of International Finance and Development of the UK. What a fantastic lineup. So my job really is to keep us to time, and I think that's why I've been invited to moderate in a very strict but polite fashion, colleagues. We have 5 minutes each for our interventions, and I'm going to start, if I may, with you, Sir, Minister of Finance of Bhutan. I know Bhutan has recently transitioned from least developed countries, so congratulations to Bhutan on that transition. I know you've engaged in 2 TIWB programs, if I'm not mistaken, that have supported both technical capacity and institution building in Bhutan. I'd love to know, and I'm sure the audience would be thrilled also, how do these hands-on support efforts fit with your broader vision for sustainable development and good governance in Bhutan? Sir.
Thank you, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to be at this very high-level event. Today, we mark a decade of Tax Inspectors Without Borders program, acknowledging its significant impact on strengthening the tax systems and boosting domestic resource mobilization. I think we in Bhutan have recently, just about a week ago, we passed our Goods and Services Tax, Excise Tax, and Income Tax Act, and especially in the GST, we were able to pass with very minimal exemptions, and I think I am very positive that this will have a big impact on our economy and on our foreign direct investments. So as Bhutan transitions to a lower middle income developing country, as we strive to reduce our reliance on external financing costs, LDC graduation, domestic resource mobilization is no longer a technical aspiration but a development necessity. The TIWB program has been foundational to this journey and profoundly enhancing Bhutan's tax capabilities and strategic fiscal independence. As we look to implement, like I said, I think as we look to implement the Goods and Services Tax, Excise Tax, and the new income tax, we look forward to seeing how we can work together with TIAB 2.0 for a smooth implementation of this very new tax regime. TIWB program has significantly enhanced the capacity of Bhutanese tax officials through 2 impactful phases, like you mentioned. The first phase, collaboration with India, which launched in 2019. The initial TIWB program, launched in 2019 in partnership with India's Central Board of Direct Taxes, successfully trained over 30 tax officials. Despite COVID-19 restrictions, a combination of 25 virtual sessions and 1 on-site training supported by UNDP effectively boosted their skills. Now in phase 2, the focus was on international taxation, especially on international transfer pricing with Poland, launched in 2023. Building on the success of the first phase, second program launched in September 2023 engaged 3 tax experts from Poland's Ministry of Finance. The tailored initiative focused on international taxation and transfer pricing. Transfer pricing was relatively new concept in Bhutan, I think. But now we have a lot of initiatives going on. What other one is called the GMC, Gelifu Mindfulness City, where we are envisioning a big metropolitan city with a very different concept. And of course, we also have 20,000 megawatt of renewable energy. And then we are thinking very big. Bhutan, a small country, is thinking very big. I think doubling our GDP by 2029, quadrupling that by 2034, and then 10 times we are thinking exponential. And to do that, I think the taxation system, I think, is very important. So. The strategic partnership through these collaborations with the tax administrations with India and Poland, I think it has provided invaluable technical assistance and strategic knowledge transfer, significantly empowered Bhutan to, number one, strengthen our tax certainty for FDI, foreign direct investment. Number two, we have been able to combat illicit financial flows, I think, because unless you know what's happening, so I think this technical assistance with TI has been very useful. And that number three, support sectoral growth. Improved tax administration ensures equitable contributions from multinational enterprises, underpinning the sustainable expansion of key sectors like tourism, finance, which comprise over 55% of Bhutan's GDP in 2023. Of course, building, as you mentioned, lasting institutional capacity and a global voice. A little Bhutan, I think, as you, I think now there's little understanding of Bhutan. Like when I was a student in America in the early 90s, I think nobody would know actually where Bhutan is. But now, I think I think there is a voice for little Bhutan. And of course, the other one is transformative impact and future outlook. I think TIBT initiatives exemplify the power of international cooperation and knowledge sharing in strengthening tax administration. By implementing expert recommendations and adopting best practices, Bhutan has significantly enhanced our tax administration, improving efficiency and national revenue. And of course, I think simplifying tax, I think, and the improving tax compliance, I think that we are counting on that. We are starting with GST with just 5%, but very minimal exemptions. Exemptions are just very necessity. We have just gone on rice, salt, and oil, and the other two are disabled wheelchair and women's sanitary pads. Just that, and then we are going with that. I think that's a very good to start. So notably, TIWB initiative has directly contributed to raising additional millions of taxes in Bhutan. It has, we express our gratitude to TIWB Secretariat, UNDP, and OECD for your invaluable support and look forward to continued collaboration. Bhutan commends OECD, UNDP, and its partner administrations, India and Poland, for championing this initiative. Bhutan affirms our commitment to strengthening international cooperation for tax justice, development financing, and the shared fight against illicit financial flows. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much, Minister, for your remarks. That was incredibly insightful. And one of the features of Tax Inspectors Without Borders, which I'm sure will become a theme throughout the interventions, is how TIWB also strengthens relations across different countries, the tax administrations across different countries. You mentioned in particular Poland and India there. It's a fantastic lattice work of support that's being forged through TIWB. Thank you so much, Minister, for your leadership. I'm really pleased and honoured now to ask His Excellency Mr. Pasi Helman to provide remarks. Mr. Pasi Helman is Under Secretary of State of International Development from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland. And Finland has been a fantastic donor to TIWB and beyond a donor, a champion for Tax Inspectors Without Borders and domestic resource mobilization. I'd love to know, and I'm sure we all would, from your perspective, how do initiatives like TIWB strengthen domestic resource mobilization, especially considering the emerging commitments outlined in FFD4? Over to you, sir.
Good morning, and thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you for the organizers, OECD and UNDP, and I need to say I particularly admire the enthusiasm of our hosts and keynote speakers and moderators that even after already a few very hot days in Seville, you haven't lost the enthusiasm, so it's good to note. Mr. Moderator, I'm going to put your question perhaps first in a broader perspective. We are in FFD4. We had the first FFD Financing for Development Summit already 23 years ago in Monterrey, where we agreed on this broad definition of financing for development for the first time, meaning that we need to tap into all possible financial flows to attain the MDGs at the time, but SDGs then later on, meaning that we need to tap into domestic and foreign resources, we need to tap into public and private resources. And I think given the current era of global challenges and including adjustments in ODA budgets in so many countries, unfortunately, I think it's even more important to concentrate on domestic resource mobilization and the way how we use our public funds to support the DRM agenda, particularly taxation, because that's one of the most sustainable sources of financing for the SDGs. In our view, wherever we are, tax revenues allow countries to provide the necessary public services such as education, health services, infrastructure, etc. In my country, in Finland, over 90% of the population, according to surveys, feel that it is important to collect taxes in order to maintain the welfare society. And I think in this regard, it's very important there's a public common trust into the authorities. Trust is essential for the desire and willingness for the population to agree on taxation issues. Maybe another piece in the big picture about the role of taxation. There's a fairly recent OECD report, I think from last year, where the report compares tax to GDP ratios in different parts of the world, and one of the findings was that the average tax to GDP ratio in the OECD countries is 32%, whereas the average tax to GDP ratio in countries in sub-Saharan Africa, or this is actually not all countries, but 36 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, the average tax to GDP ratio is 16%. I'm not suggesting that we make simplistic conclusions from this, but I think the numbers do indicate something, and I think it's worth sort of digging into them. It's been mentioned here that Finland has been a long-term supporter of tax inspectors without borders and in general tax for SDGs type of issues, and we've been very pleased with the results achieved through TIWB, and we are very much looking forward to our continued cooperation. As a matter of fact, we have fairly recently, last week, made new decisions of new allocations for the coming years for 7.4 million euros for TIWB, but also another new support to the African Tax Authorities Forum, ATAF, for the amount of 8.5 million euros for the coming years. So I think this is a very strong signal and indication from our side about our commitment to these issues. In addition to global and regional projects, we are also collaborating at the country level bilaterally, providing technical assistance, doing technical cooperation in the DRM sector. And there are, of course, differences in national legislations, but I think there are relatively common building blocks for good tax administrations everywhere. And for example, we have had a long-term partnership with Tanzania, and a small but important part of our collaboration with Tanzania has been through the Finnish tax authority, Vero, and it's been quite visible how DRM efforts complement cooperation in other sectors. And as an example, when Vero began its cooperation with the Tanzania Revenue Authority a few years ago, the adjustable taxable income increased by 15% during the first year. And additionally, I think the role of digital innovations in developing tax systems and structures is very, very important. And I think there are a number of different examples around the world where digitalization of tax collection systems, for example, has provided significant increases in revenue collection. So the role of digital innovations in the DRM agenda should not be underestimated. So I think, Mr. Moderator, all in all, and maybe as a direct response to your question, it is really a matter of enhancing, strengthening the various coordination mechanisms at the international and at the national level, plus also then alignment of international policies with national DRM strategies, structures, and procedures, and I think that's the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, again for the support of Finland to the initiative, and also pointing towards the digital aspect of the work, because of course TIWB 2.0 isn't just more of the same, it's moving into the next generation of support, and I think you've highlighted one of the areas that we will be doing that. So thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'm now pleased to be able to invite His Excellency Dr. Ali Nasir Mohammed, Permanent Representative for the Maldives, to speak. And given the Maldives' status as a small island developing state that relies heavily on tourism and foreign direct investment, how has the experience of Tax Inspectors Without Borders helped you strike a balance between ensuring tax certainty for multinational investors and strengthening tax enforcement? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Let me push this. Thank you, Tom. The Maldives, as you said, very well said, is a small, it's a developing state. It's an archipelagic state, meaning comprises hundreds and hundreds of islands. And maybe perhaps because of the geographical seclusion, tax was not a big part of state building in the Maldives. Many countries that we could name became nation states with a central question about whether should we pay tax or not, or how should we pay tax. In our case, the tax or Inland Revenue Authority came into being. It's actually just a few years older than TIW. Just a few years older. We established MIRA, we call Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, around 2009, 2008. So our experience in tax collection has been fairly young, and TIWB has been a great partner for MIRA over the years. Our partnership with MIRA, with TIWB started in 2018, and since then, I've been told, I've not worked in MIRA, but my colleagues at MIRA tells us that the partnership has benefited immensely. I will highlight just a couple of points in response to your question. Yes, the Maldives economy is almost entirely dependent on tourism sector, and in the tourism sector is dominated by the global big brands in the tourism industry. Any global brand name that you can name is there invested in the Maldives in the tourism sector, and we are under no illusion about the power of these global big brands. They will have legal departments focusing exclusively on tax issues in a given country, whose legal department will be larger than the entire legal apparatus of the government. Not to speak of the Inland Revenue Authority, but the entire government. So we are under no illusion about the power asymmetry when it comes to questions relating to tax from the tourism sector. And that is precisely where TIWB has been immensely helpful for MIRA, especially in transfer pricing audits and investigations. These are the two areas in which we have been collaborating over the last few years. The tax authority in the Maldives has said that they have recovered nearly $10 million from the transfer pricing audits and from the investigations that have been carried out with the help of TIWB. Marcos, in his remarks here, the ASG UNDP Marcos, in his remarks said, tax is a big part of governance, and that's precisely what we are finding out in the Maldives. We can establish revenue authorities, we can staff them with expertise, but it requires a governance framework, a governance mechanism to build the capacity to engage with the investors without actually driving the investors away from the Maldives. We would like to maintain the Maldives as an investor-friendly country, but that has tax authority that is credible, that has the expertise, that can engage with them on an equal footing to ask the right questions when they do audit or when they do the investigations. We also have partnered with TIWB in investigation itself, real-time information sharing when the investigation going on. That again had been extremely helpful. Industry-wise, concentration of economy-wise, we are located in a geography where our neighboring countries deal with foreign investors in different sectors, but ours is a tourism dominated economy, and therefore these kind of dialogues that we have had with TIWB has helped the Maldives significantly over the years. And looking forward, we wish to expand the partnership that we have with TIWB and deepen the partnership where we can actually embark on using new and innovative methods, including the use of digital technologies that we believe that we can leverage the expertise that we have already built in MIRA. I hope I provided answers to your question, Tom. Thank you.
Certainly you did, and more. And congratulations to the Maldives and to MIRA in particular in going so far in such a short amount of time. And thank you for rooting your remarks also in governance. You know, the expertise provided through TIWB will not work without the leadership of governments and a foundation in effective governance. And again, congratulations to the Maldives for your leadership on that agenda. I just wanted, as we move to our final speaker, to note that the learning on tax inspectors without borders goes both ways, both with those who engage in providing the expertise and those who receive some of that expertise. And I was very lucky to visit HMRC in the UK not long ago and listen to officials who have engaged directly with TIWB and hear how positive their experience of engaging with TIWB has been and how much they have learned from the experience as well. So I wanted now to pass to Ms. Katie Fisher, Deputy Director, International Finance and Development of the UK. And the UK, as we've already heard, has been a key partner in TIWB since its early days. And HMRC experts, as I've said, play a central role in delivering support across a wide range of countries. So, Katie, can you tell us, what has the UK's experience been of engaging with TIWB, and would you encourage others to do the same?
Great. Thanks very much for the question and for inviting me to join today. As you say, we in the UK have a long-standing commitment to supporting lower-income countries on international tax, and really keen to work in partnership, recognising the real challenges that countries face and supporting them to reach their revenue goals. As you said, we have been one of the earliest supporters of Tax Inspectors Without Borders. We've contributed financially, but also, as you said, sent our own experts from our Revenue and Customs Department to provide the kind of high-quality peer-to-peer capacity building support that TWIB is well known for. Our experience has been very positive, and we would strongly encourage others to provide support. I'm going to just focus on 3 key benefits that I think we've found over the last 10 years. So our ability to provide partnership and work in partnership with lower income countries has really improved over that time. Through TIWB, we've really developed a deeper understanding of tax and development, with our own tax experts getting a much better insight into the specific challenges that different countries face. And that means that now when we're advising countries and their revenue authorities, our experts can factor in that experience and deliver more kind of nuanced, practical and specific advice. Then, as you said, a second benefit I would really highlight is that it's an opportunity a really kind of unique opportunity for our staff to engage and as a kind of a retention opportunity for our Revenue and Customs Department. The experts really value the opportunity to apply their skills in an international context where they can really see the impact of what they're doing, and that's a highly attractive offer for staff. It means that they can really develop their leadership skills, broaden their network, work with senior specialists around the world, and that really fosters professional growth, institutional pride, and a real strong culture of global cooperation. And then finally, I would just say that we really recognise the benefits of that wider cooperation by coordinating our efforts to support partner countries on international tax. It really helps. This whole exercise kind of helps us minimise duplication and bring real focus to the issue. So that's better for those providing the expertise and for the recipients of that support. Really, it has been a really beneficial thing for us. I would pick up on the point that Pasi made about it's important that this is one important intervention alongside others, and we really need to work well to coordinate those efforts so that we can become, we are sure that we become more than the sum of our parts, and that we work together to provide a really strong country-owned and driven plans for domestic resource mobilization. And just to finish, to say it's been great to be in this panel. It's wonderful to hear the experience of others working on this as well, and we really look forward to working on 2.0 as well, and look forward to having a positive impact on this agenda in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you so much to this panel. I think as we've looked back over the last decade, we've really seen from the remarks the impact that TIWB has had on revenue generation, on capacities that have been built, but also on international relations and on a strengthened multilateralism across countries generated through TIWB. I think this is a model that's replicable in other areas as well. I've had conversations, for example, with the insurance industry of how deploying experts in a similar way might also benefit countries across the world. So congratulations to all of my panel, both on their remarks and their experience and championing of TIWB over the last decade. A round of applause again. And now we're going to look forward to the next 10 years, and I invite Ben back to the chair to moderate the next panel. Thank you, sir. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you very much to the panelists. So, as Thomas said, we're now going to look ahead and we're going to consider two things really. One is where technically the initiative might go, what different aspects might TIWB take on, but perhaps most importantly we're going to look at partnerships. And that's important because in a climate where resources are scarce, the initiative, if it's going to succeed and respond to the massive amount of demand for its services, it's going to have to think rather differently about partnerships. So with that in mind, let me welcome the panelists for the final session to the front of the room. Emeka Nwankwo, Head of Member Services of the Africa Tax Administration. Please come and take your seat. Natalie Bernasconi, Vice President of Global Strategy at ISSD. Welcome to you. And Julia Mascani, Executive Director of the International Centre for Tax and Development, and Commissioner Edward Kieswetter, Commissioner of the South Africa Revenue Service, and also a very active member of the OECD's Forum on Tax Administration. Welcome to you. So, Emeka, if you could kick us off. I mean, you've been a fantastic partner already for this initiative, and I think what we're trying to do is to see where we might respond to new demands on the continent, which you see very clearly. So perhaps you could comment on where you think the initiative might go and how we might partner in the future with ATAF.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, or good morning. It's been an intensive 2 days.
Like a blur.
Yeah. I think first of all to say congratulations again to TIWB and probably ATAF as the regional partner for Africa. And interestingly, I think the relationship goes beyond TIWB because we have the bilateral agreement, MOU, with the OECD on one hand and the UNDP. So it's one of those where we're in constant engagement on how to proceed and how to do this. TIWB is an interesting program that aligns with the ATAF mission to support, again, African tax administrations in improving the tax systems. But I think in discussing the new areas to focus on, it would be great to discuss what has worked. Why has this been impactful? Because if you look at the environments within which we operate, beyond ATAF, there are other regional organizations, but especially for ATAF, who provide capacity building and other sorts of support to countries. But TIWB has been interesting in terms of the fact that it has a focus in supporting countries on specific issues around compliance for cross-border services, multinationals, and in the hand-holding journey on specific cases. Because we're discussing the 1.9 billion that has been collected and the assessments. And this is because of the hand-holding, because we're talking about real cases, live cases, where we work with countries to address and look at those cases. And the great thing about the partnership is ATAF has the expertise on the continents. We have a view and we engage our member countries. OECD has tools with a global perspective, and UNDP has the operational network on the continents. And that way we engage and we find the best way to support countries. And this we need to look at, how do we optimize, how do we keep pushing this? And this will come from coordination as we move forward. I think it was mentioned in previous panels about the commitments and losing track of the commitments. So looking forward, we also have to look at where is the advantage for TIWB, where's the most impact? How do we take forward what we've done in the last 10 years and optimize that? And if we've done 1.9 billion in the last 10 years, how can we do double of that in the next 2 to 5 years with the experience that we've had? But that also means looking at how we work, the areas of focus as we expand, in which direction. Is it on money efficiency around what we're already doing, or is it in expanding the thematic areas we focus on other types of activities? And that will be very critical in the process. In terms of for countries where the interest might be, again, it will probably be the things we've been working on, transfer pricing, but increasingly, we're seeing demand for support on sector-specific audits for multinationals. Telecommunications, extractives is a constant. Ben, as you know, I think the 2-3 programs we just launched of recent are all focused on extractives. And I think the 4th is on telecoms. So I think it's deepening the expertise beyond the transfer pricing audits in terms of tax audits itself. I think maybe the direction and what we need to look at is now industry expertise. How do we layer that above and beyond looking at the tax aspect of in terms of auditing process, auditing techniques, and the hand-holding? But how do we help the countries, the officials, through that hand-holding to understand the industry much more better? Because it becomes more effective if you understand the industry beyond just being an auditor. What is the value chain? How is value created? And such. So I think generally that will be probably the next level and the approach to be taken on that in terms of looking forward on how we can support countries. But I'll still go back to the coordination part of it. I spoke about the MOUs because within, again, the MOU UNDP, we have programs around capacity building with the OECD. Marcos, I know we're discussing how to handle the criminal investigation, for example, capacity building. But how do we take those elements and see how the role they play outside of the TIWB, but then how do we improve TIWB impact and process without having to, again, either duplicate or overload the countries in terms of the support being provided. And I would also want to just, within, again, this discussion, acknowledge the importance of partnerships and the supports. And I think His Excellency, Mr. Passy, when he was speaking, spoke about the work of Veruscat in Tanzania. And beyond the renewed commitments, which we're very grateful for, because again, our ability to engage and support within TIWB and the work ITAF does is through such supports. But we're also starting to see where we can work together in terms of sharing resources, engaging Veruscat in countries like Botswana and Kenya. And increasingly, that would also become important because ideas are shared, and we get to do, again, more work with the countries beyond just looking at audit, but creating efficiency within the tax administrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Emeka. And I should have said at the outset, congratulations to ATAF for last year celebrating your 15th birthday under the leadership of Logan Watt, who's I'm very pleased to see in the room. And I think over that time, ATAF's capacity to deliver has expanded so much that you're in the leadership role on the continent on issues of capacity building. And so that's a very important thing to bear in mind. But also thank you for raising where the audit work in particular is evolving and the specialist skills now being required to look at extractives, telecoms and banking issues where a different set of skills is going to be required. So that's something we've got to bear in mind. And that leads us very nicely with the extractives focus to Natalie. And ISSD leads the Intergovernmental Forum on Mining, and we've started to have a very effective collaboration with that body, which brings a massive amount of expertise, particularly in the extractives mining. So maybe you could talk a bit about where you see the opportunity for future collaboration.
Absolutely, thank you so much. ISD and TIWB have been working together and had a really productive relationship and partnership since 2019 already. And so over the past 6 years, our work has focused on tax audits as part of our BEPS in Mining program, which we deliver together with the OECD. And it's been a real pleasure working with all the partners, and I think we have really complementary skills. I just want to give a bit of context before I move to 3 points and opportunities for greater collaboration. IISD heads the Secretariat of the Intergovernmental Forum on Mining, Minerals, Metals for Sustainable Development since 2015. And we were chosen to be the Secretariat really because we have a lot of expertise on investment issues, investment law and policy, international investment law, local investment law, and we know the frameworks very well. And this partnership or this forum was a partnership that was developed by South Africa and Canada as an outcome of the World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2002 and was launched in 2005. So it's also another longer standing initiative that has been quite successful with its 86 countries nowadays. And when we became and took over the Secretariat, there was great demand on support on tax issues by our developing country members. And that is when we started working with the OECD and then with TIWB. So it's been really an important demand-driven support that we've provided through this partnership. I just want to give 3 points or opportunities for greater collaboration in the coming 10 years. So first, it's the opportunity to connect policy advice to implementation. And that's working with TIWB really allows us to walk the last mile, I would say, of our work on domestic resource mobilization. So not only do we support countries in improving their laws and policies, but we're able together to ensure sound policies and balanced fiscal regimes that are then implemented and translated into increased domestic revenue. So that's the first point. The second opportunity we see is to improve policy recommendations with insights from the audits. So really technical. So through the tax audits, we are also able to identify precisely the loopholes that multinational companies use to avoid paying taxes. We then use this knowledge to work with policymakers to close the loopholes in laws and regulations and also administrative rulings. And then the last point and opportunity for greater collaboration is really to break the silos and integrate tax collection into mining investment policy. Zooming back, a partnership between TIWB and IISD also helps to place mining revenue mobilization into the broader role and responsibility of the mining sector towards sustainable development. So IGF's mining policy framework helps to connect economic benefits with environmental management, local impacts, and small-scale mining. So we're really looking forward to another decade of partnership with TIWB, the OECD, UNDP, and ATAF. We'll be signing an MOU with ATAF, and we'll sign another one later this year with the OECD. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalie. I mean, this partnership is going to be so important because the treatment of extractives from a tax perspective is a make or break issue for so many countries. So absolutely great. And thank you also for, I mean, what I've noticed that your team are really good at is learning from practice and translating that into policy recommendations and feeding that into the international tax rulemaking work, which is also really, really important. So I think that also leads us very nicely to Julia. ICTD is a great place for those of you who don't know it. I'm sure Julia will say a word about it, but it's a great place for bridging policy research with practice. And similar to what Natalie was talking about. So maybe you could tell us a bit about where you see opportunities for ICTD to enhance or collaborate with TIWB and similar capacity building initiatives in the DRM space.
Sure, thanks for the question and thanks a lot for having me. So I will say a little bit more about the ICTD, and I will say particularly more about research, because that's very much what we do. We're a research organization, and I do think that there is a big role to play for research, particularly partnering with programs like TIWB, working on the operational technical level at the country level. So I think it's really a distinct and highly complementary role, that of generating and exchanging evidence around the practice of revenue collection. I think it's useful to reflect back on the past 10 years of work on taxation. I think one of the key lessons learned really is that evidence can really help shape policy in a way that makes it more effective, more efficient, fairer. And I think that is particularly important for lower income countries because as the previous panelists have noted, the resources, human resources, financial resources to support revenue collection are incredibly scarce, which does mean that any effort for reform needs to be very carefully directed and sequenced towards the things that we know work best, both to generate revenue, but also to build more equitable tax systems, which in the long term is what is really required to sustain revenue mobilization. And I think it's, again, useful to remind ourselves of a very simple number that is always quite surprising to many, which is that the average tax official in a low-income country deals with 10 times as many taxpayers as their counterpart in a high-income country. So again, the capacity, the resources are heavily constrained, and that means that evidence can really help direct those resources and deploy those resources in the most effective way. Luckily, having been at it for 15 years like ATAF within the ICTD, but also there's many other organizations represented in the room as well, who have generated lots of evidence on what works, what doesn't work, and what is required to sustain revenue mobilization in the long term. And those insights can be deployed to enhance programs that are already excellent, like Tax Inspectors Without Borders, as well as other initiatives that are going on at the national level to increase and improve revenue mobilization. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how that can be done in the context of Tax Inspectors Without Borders. But if you're interested in knowing more about the importance of research, translating into policy impact, we also have a side event tomorrow morning at 8:30 on that in partnership with the IFS, ODI, and IISD. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So I think in terms of the partnership with ICTD and TIWB, I think ICTD's contribution would mostly be on that cross-country learning and really building insights that are not only useful and transformative at the country level, but also generalizable and scalable across countries. And I can think about three specific ways of doing that. One is really to analyze and compare insights that come from the country work across countries. And that helps amplify lessons learned so that inspectors and tax officials don't need to reinvent the wheel, which they already do not, because organizations like ATAF already provide that network for insights, but research can also help towards that. But again, making those insights scalable and generalizable beyond individual country cases, I think is really key. And we have quite a lot of experience about that at the ICTD. Later this year, we'll publish a set of papers building on case studies across 7 countries about how international tax standards are applied at the national level, which will provide a really good platform for that kind of cross-country learning. The second piece where research can be really helpful is to connect any specific bit of technical assistance and work going on at the country level with the bigger picture on both tax policy and tax administration. Tax officials and tax inspectors are naturally focused, for good reasons, on increasing revenue and bringing in more revenue, which is obviously needed. But I think I was really pleased that in the previous interventions, the issues of trust and governance came through very, very clearly. And I think this is where research can sometimes help to illustrate how things like audits, which are obviously the primary focus of audits is to bring in more revenue, but these are also key interactions between firms and citizens and the state. And if those interactions go wrong, because perhaps tax officials have an approach that is perceived or is perhaps too aggressive or is not as positive as it could be, then those interactions might bring in revenue in the short term, but in the long term will undermine that trust that has been already said is absolutely essential for revenue mobilization in the longer term. And it's very easy to, it's very hard to build trust. It's very easy to lose it. And those interactions are often critical in that endeavor to build trust, but also to make sure that citizens and firms see the tax system and the tax authority in particular as a facilitator and as a service-oriented organization and not just a collector. The final point is about the role of research is to challenge existing wisdom. So obviously there is a wealth of experience amongst tax officials from any country. It's great that TIWB is making sure that experience is already shared across countries. But sometimes existing wisdom needs to be revised and challenged so that programs that are already excellent can be improved over time. This is not about changing entirely, but it's perhaps tweaking programs so that it can be even more effective at what they do. And that's important because measures that have been proven to work in the past sometimes have counterintuitive impacts and counterproductive impacts in different contexts. So again, building that evidence that is context specific is incredibly important. And it is one of the big achievements of the past 10 years. 10 years ago, there was very little research that was context specific for lower income countries. And now we have a wealth of it thanks to organizations like ATAF and the ACTD and other research organizations. So I think there's absolutely an important role for research. The ACTD is one organization doing that. There are others as well. And it's a role that is distinct and highly complementary to the more operational and technical work that's been brought forward by the OECD, UNDP, ATAF, and others. And it is about generating, sharing knowledge. It is about amplifying and scaling up insights so that tax collection can be truly evidence-based across countries. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia. You've made a compelling case for TIWB to have more of a kind of navigation system building on research and learning and monitoring. So we'll definitely come back to that, and particularly linking TIWB to wider issues of tax policy and administration. So thank you very much for that. So we'll continue the dialogue there. So finally, Commissioner Kieswetter. South Africa has been a great provider of assistance to TIWB and across the continent on many tax matters. And I guess the question for you is, how can we incentivize others to get involved? Because one of our problems is that there are too few experts and too much demand. So maybe you could reflect on your experience with that in mind.
Thank you, and good morning, ministers, commissioners, other distinguished leaders. I speak as the chair of ATAF, the Commission of the South African Revenue Service, an active member of the OECD Forum for Tax Administration. But most importantly, I speak as a social activist, and today particularly as a DRM activist, for all the reasons that we've heard over the last few days. Let me just tell you a little bit about SARS quickly. SARS is probably in South Africa one of the most significant achievements of our 30 years of democracy, providing 90% of government revenue, a tax to GDP ratio of between 25 to 28%, and a buoyancy consistently of above 1. In the last 6 years, since I've returned to the institution, we have had, in a fairly modest economy of nominal growth of between 4 and 5, we have grown our revenue consistently with a compound annual growth rate of 7.5%. Within that, though, is a huge focus on compliance programs, and I'll come to that in a moment. And our compliance program have yielded revenue growth on a CAGR basis of 17.5% over the last 6 years. Within that, we have improved voluntary compliance by almost 4 percentage points. And we're keeping our eye on the soft issues as well, because as you pointed out, issues such as trust matters for fiscal and sustainable integrity. So our service when to taxpayers measured by hard measures went up from 54 to 87%. Attitude toward compliance from 66 to 76%. Trust in 2019 was 48%. We measured it earlier this year. It is now 75%. And our own employees are our engagement, which we measure from 61 to 71%. So we measure everything. And yet, we are nowhere close to declaring victory. We have such a long way to go. I share these results to make a few points. Firstly, revenue administrations must think strategically about how they compose, enable, and execute the compliance program. For example, the analytical work just in risk profiling and case selection is the first issue that will determine the yield on effort. Pick the wrong case, profile a case incorrectly, then any effort will yield no meaningful results. The automation then, secondly, of routine, repetitive tasks frees up human effort to focus on higher value work in investigative and audit activities. Again, if highly skilled auditors are doing simple verifications that could be done by AI, then again we are deploying our resources incorrectly. So these are important issues, and I think this is where organizations and partnerships between ATAF and TIWB can add significant value. And SARS has been an active partner to TIWB. I get lost with all the 4-letter and 3-letter acronyms. In fact, we are a 4-letter acronym. Since 2018, we've been supplying our own resources to work with it in areas such as Zambia, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Eswatini, in areas such as mining, transfer pricing, oil and gas, and crime investigations. And we've been actively involved in it, both because we can learn and benefit, but also because we want to share our own expertise. Just lessons from building strategic partnerships. Firstly is we always appreciate help and support from the Global North. We believe South-South cooperation is very important. Sharing expertise is important. We always say in Africa, we are probably a big brother, but we must be more brotherly than big. Adopting hybrid models have worked for us, both virtual and physical, also allows to leverage our opportunity. Investing in mentoring and long-term effort is important. There are other areas I think we can step up, such as country-by-country reporting. Administrations often harvest data through the automatic exchange of information. We've been an early adopter, but then don't always extract the full value out of that information. VAT on digital trade, global minimum tax are areas where I think we should look at how do we align the agenda for the next period. I want to leave you with 5 points on institutional integrity that I would ask donors and other agencies to think about. The first is build self-reliance, not eternal dependence. In other words, teach us how to fish, don't feed us fish. And often there is inadvertently, with good intent, a greater dependence that we live with as opposed to a greater self-reliance. And for me, that's transactional. We need to be more strategic in that. The second is a caution that we source capacity from beyond Africa to work in Africa, and not just circulate African resources among ourselves, because again, it's a zero-sum game. And so I would say bring experts with, and don't just poach experts within Africa. It's just like spreading margarine thinner and thinner, and you don't get more. The third is that, and it builds to that, think about expanding and enriching the gene pool and not simply duplicate or dilute effort, which would be an orientation going forward. And then how do we leverage and scale up these efforts, especially in areas of enabling technology and tools. Whilst human effort is one that has infinite capacity, the ultimate effort is enabled by better use of digitalization, better use of tools that enables, and we have found in SARS a significant deployment of data science, data analytics, and AI has allowed us to do significantly more with less, and then it frees up people to do really meaningful work in high value areas. And we've seen the results so far. And in the next 5 years, we want to significantly modernize our administrative platform to embed deep into it some of the more recent advances in AI, agentic AI, that wasn't there 5 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and I must remember to introduce you as a DRM activist in the future. So you put a lot on the table, and I think your comments about the importance of South-South cooperation and tempered with making sure we mix everything up with experts from everywhere to maximize the value of expertise wherever they're deployed. But also I thought, and it's very important that as we go forward, what we are, where we see massive opportunities are to respond to new areas of international taxation on country-by-country reporting to make use of information that has been shared increasingly automatic around the world, and VAT digital platform issues. These are all areas where the initiative is dipping its toe, but we see big opportunities for the next 10 years. Now, Tom, I think the program says that you and I will close. Do you want to add anything to what has been said, or shall we? We're pretty much out of time, and I can see where the organisers are agitating to make sure that we don't bump into the next meeting. So I don't intend to summarise what has been a really rich discussion, but I think you can see that the initiative is in great shape. And with the partnerships that we're lining up, I think the next 10 years are going to look pretty good. One statistic that we don't often quote because it keeps changing is that for $1 of investment in running this thing, $125 is returned. And one of the reasons why that ratio is so great is that our teams work incredibly hard. And I'd like to pay tribute to Marcos from the OECD and Aurea and all their teams and all the people that behind the scenes make this very complicated but fantastically successful program work. So thank you all to you, and look forward to seeing you in another 10 years. So it may not be me.